Hello everyone, this is CyberEric with another gameplay impressions video, and this is for Mecha Break. As part of these videos, I usually go over kind of what the game is, gameplay impressions, etc. etc. And just for background, Mecha Break is a free-to-play online mech shooter. As you're going to see in a second here, it has both PvP modes and player versus environment or extraction modes, which we will go over in a second here. It is developed by Amazing Season Games, and it is currently available for Xbox and PC. And before I start, I always like to ask, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and get traction and make more content like this. So let's start with the movement. Basically, I always see third-person shooter in this case scenario, mech shooter. If you played Armored Core, you'll feel right at home. And here I'm basically showcasing some of the tutorials, so you can kind of just see the basic movement without the chaotic things that happen when you go into a big match. Obviously, movement in 3D, jumping and shooting, etc., and I'll show some of the combat right here in a quick second. But basically, again, third-person mech shooter free-to-play title. And here I'm going to show some of the combat right now in a second. That includes basically, you can obviously aim, shoot. It's a pretty generous shooting mechanic here. And obviously, if enemies shield, you also have a melee combat. And this will also depending on the mech that you have. And I'll go kind of over quick once we go over the other footage. You will see the difference between mech and melee and shooting mechanics kind of thing. So basically here I am, this is the tutorial. You'll be forced to do this when you play the game. But here's just a quick showcase, which is a little bit more slower than the fast-paced action of the actual online matches. So I thought it was easier to showcase the combat. So again, more tutorial going around here, and I also wanted to show that basically there has pretty robust both shooting mechanics where you can change different weapons. We'll go over that in a second. But also when you're fighting different enemy mechs. In here I'm fighting an AI, but if you're fighting a real person, you also have to contend with them like this close range if necessary. Where again you're gonna be shooting at them, you're gonna be switching weapons, checking your ammo, and from time to time you can even have shields, parry, different abilities that you will have for the different mechs. That's most of the thing, and again I'm just showcasing this footage so you guys can see. We dive in, melee, and again this is part of the tutorial. I'll do the parry in a second here so you guys can kind of see how long it takes. And here you go, that's a parry right there. And basically the standard mechanics you would kind of expect to see, but overall it plays pretty well, even though a little bit challenging at times with the controls. So changing of weapons. So one of the things you can do in this game, because it's kind of like an open arena shooter as well, so you can call in airdrops. And that basically allows you to change different weapons, change gear, do other things like summon different items, etc., etc. And here you go. Basically, if you've ever played something like a Fortnite or anything like that, where you have like a menu and a backpack, and you're basically putting things in your backpack, right? And that you find on the ground. And again, this is one of the things that are kind of annoying about the game. Changing weapons, for example, at least on the Xbox with the controller, is basically down on the D-pad and A, which is not the most intrusive way of changing. But again, one of the controls is one of the challenging things for this game. But for the most part, that's kind of what you can do. You can have different weapons, your mech. Obviously, you will have ammo for some of the weapons you have, and basically running around. So let's go over real quick also some of the hub, if you will. So there's obviously a hub. You can create a character. Here's one of the staple generic characters that the game gives you at the beginning. You're gonna have this hub where you can run around, walk, activate different panels, etc. But it's basically a glorious menu, if you will. So you're probably not gonna use this mode in terms of walking around with your character often. But obviously they sell skins and everything for these kind of modes. All right, so real quick. Let's go over some of the menus. Obviously, as a free-to-play title, you got things like Marketplace, which I'll show in a second. You got daily logins. You got content that they're trying to sell you, right? It is free to play. And again, it's one of the best things as to like you get to try this for free. So, all right, so some of the game, I want to go over some of the game modes in a second. But again, I'm just going over, basically, this is kind of like the daily where you're collecting whatever they're giving you daily. But the game modes, basically, the game has a couple of modes that allows you to play with. One of the things is called Operation Verge, and this is the 6v6 objective mode, where you're basically going to fighting a PvP player versus player. And this is one of the main modes. It's not the main mode of the game. Ace Arena is basically 3v3 team deathmatch. So it's basically the same, but more. And you also have challenges where you can get the different mechs. You can go through challenges for them, and you obviously have a training room where you can basically just run around with the mech to try them out. I think you start with 12 mechs. The other big mode is called Mashmak. Oh, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. That mode is basically the extraction shooter mode. It's a player versus environment. It even has difficulty settings where you can play it on normal, hard, or extreme. Obviously, I'm changing here the tabs for the marketplace, where obviously there's a lot of marketplace, a lot of different currencies. If you see top right corner, there's like 4 different currencies, which again, I don't even know what they are. This is just a quick gameplay showcase. I believe this is a season pass, for example, or whatever it is. But again, free-to-play titles, you should be expecting those kind of things. Okay, so different mechs. Again, I won't show them all, otherwise this will take forever. But there's I think 12 mechs, and you basically can just switch in the main menu on them. Here's one where this is like a heavy defender. Well, he'll have like a shield. He'll have like an ulti where he goes like all lasers, and I'll show that in a second here. Big cannon, for example, and he basically just will stand there and basically you can tank an enemy, and you can basically help your teammates out. So alright, let's go over some of the quick showcase gameplay of, in this case, the Operation Verge that I mentioned. This is the 6v6 mode, where you're basically going to be fighting a team of 6 enemy players in an arena. It's an objective-based mode. It's not just killing players. It's activating different points, collecting different items, and whatever team gets the most points wins, right? And basically, I'm running around here. I'm doing like a play-by-play. The game really looks really nice. Combat feels solid, even though again the controls are a little bit annoying, particularly at the beginning. Once you get used to them, it kind of feels nice. That's one of the abilities that I mentioned with the lasers for that mech. That's called actually Hurricane. And basically, that's shields that I'm activating here. And basically, this is a guy in melee, basically killing me, which again, that's probably the one weakness that I found out in this match. And this is one of the first matches I ever played, so I was basically trying to figure it out. So moving on, later in the match, this is kind of the end of the match, basically, right? We're trying to push them off. Right now we have basically 6 points versus 3, and you're basically trying to capture the objectives. So again, basically we're trying to push them back in. It does feel real nice, the movement here. I'm jumping around like a rabbit, but you can basically float around if you want to. You can manage your energy on the right circle that you see there. The bottom right is basically your energy, your boost. And on the bottom left is basically your shields and your health. So alright, so I basically the match is about to get to an end, but you can see they're pretty big arenas. Right now I'm shooting a guy from a distance. We took him down, and this will basically give us all the points we need to kind of finish the match. So basically you're extracting this, and that's mostly Operation Verge is going to be that, where you're going to be 6v6, and you're going to be running around and fighting different enemies. And there's 2 different maps as well, which again I won't showcase here, but they're fun to play different objective modes. The other big mode, as I mentioned, I won't show the Arena Ace one. This is called Mashmak. And this one is basically the extraction shooter mode. And this one, basically, you're going to be running around fighting mostly, and I say mostly because there is a PvP element to it. You're fighting a lot of AI enemies, etc., etc. Feels a little bit Armored Core-ish. I'm comparing that a lot because it's a very good comparison, particularly because we just got a recent one. And I'm running around here. I'm using my shields to recover my energy. My teammates are running around as well. Right now, I was running around with 3 teammates. And again, you can basically run around. You're basically aiming at this bots or enemy AI. You're taking them down, and I'll show you in a second here. After we take down this giant turret, it drops loot. Which again, extraction shooter. You grab the loot. This is in different cases, right? A supply charge, etc., etc. And you basically have to extract with as much loot as you can. And then there's a bunch of different objectives that again I won't go toward. This is later in the match, where again I think we were being attacked. I was actually kind of lost because this was the first time I played this. Even though it took like a half an hour to play, or 20 minutes to get here, we were being attacked, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. because they were definitely coordinating. They were not that regular AI enemies, which I think it was more that we were being attacked by other PvP team that was in there. Basically, I'm just trying to back away to kind of measure what's going on. And again, I'm still using the defensive guy to kind of get a advantage for it. And again, because this is the extraction mode, what I decided to do is basically extract with the loot that I had. And again, that's part of the mode where you actually get to keep some of the loot, get some currencies, get some items, and then progress. They're like free-to-play shooter that you guys have probably heard thousands of times. And that's basically Mashmak. Again, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. But that's the extraction mode, right? For example, here, extraction. Overall, well, it's quick impressions from the game. So again, this is basically based on quick impressions playing it for the last couple of days. Even though, yes, it is another free-to-play shooter, and here you'll see footage where I'm basically dropping down, similar to like a Fortnite, right? And I'm comparing that in the like a battle royale where you're dropping down in there. But we're dropping in, and basically we're fighting another six-man team, and we're basically coordinating. Here I'm playing as a sniper, so you'll see me basically trying to maintain my distance, miss my shots as much as I could. Although I did do some assists at some point. I have stealth mechanics here, so that this mech is very light, very fast, and he can basically disappear, move around, and shoot enemies from a distance. You're trying to support your team. Real quick, in terms of impressions, the graphics are solid. I think it really matches kind of like the what they're going for. Probably doesn't match Armored Core 6, but it gets close to it. Sound can be a little bit off in some aspects, I noticed, particularly in cinematics, but for the most part, okay. There are some notable frame drops here and there, again, but that's probably part of a game coming out of beta. Also, there are bots in some of the game matches, so you can basically run around, fight different bots. You can run around, play solo if you need to. You don't have to play as a team, etc., etc. And there's different difficulty modes, so you can basically play as your leisure, and you basically can try things out. And there's also crossplay, at least. The game's already out on Xbox and PC, coming out later for the PlayStation 5, as I mentioned. And you can basically run around. But for the most part, yeah, I liked what I played for it. I'm gonna keep playing it. I recommend it, actually. If I had to give it a score, it would be an 8 out of 10. But again, that's kind of where I like to kind of tackle this thing. And that's mostly it for this video and my gameplay impressions. With that, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys later.